welcome to Naukar Digital Institute. Myself, Sia Akanksha Somani, faculty member of Naukar Institute, and today we are having with us CA Suleiman Bhimani, Vice President of Renowned Bank and Regional Head of Credit Risk Management Group. It's a pleasure to have you with us, sir. He is having experience of more than 10 years in his specific field.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Yes. So, sir, can I ask few questions from you? I'm so intrigued to know more things from you.
Yeah, sure, Akanksha.
So, as you are having expertise in credit risk management, I would like to know what is credit analysis and how important it is.
Okay. So I think two questions that you are asking: what it is and why is it?
Yes.
So let's first understand what is credit analysis. So I'm sure the theory definitions that we all know. So it is the process by which one assesses the credit worthiness of a business or an organization.
Yes.
So to put this in other words, if I need to give you money, let's assume that 1 lakh I need to give you. So the credit analysis would mean that whether you will be able to pay that money back to me or not. So that's an evaluation that a business or an individual's ability to repay, to honor that financial obligation on time. That's something credit analysis means. So this is what credit analysis is. Now why? So we all know that banks and financial institutions raise the funds from public, and they also raise the funds from other sources. And the primary work of a bank or a financial institution is to lend these funds, at a higher rate and, on out of it.
Yes.
So basically, the important role that credit analysis today has is that the money that has came from depositors, the other sources, should be safe. And that's where the role of credit analysis is very vital and important in banking and financial institutions.
Okay, sir, that's really good to know. Like, we have just read in the books what is credit analysis, but listening from you, you gave a different perspective, like whether the person you are lending money to is able to repay that money or not. That is what credit analysis is. So, sir, my next question is, we often see that many times loans are rejected by financial institutions or the banks. So what they actually prefer while sanctioning the loan?
So this is very tricky question. So whatever views that I am sharing here are, my individual views.
Okay.
So, we hear that somebody had rejected the, loan applications, but we really need to understand what a, banker looks at while sanctioning that loan. So I would start with again a theory. The students who are listening would all have studied about 5 C's of credit analysis. While we have understood what is credit analysis, what exactly is we are covering under this credit analysis, we need to understand. So these 5 C's of credit analysis include character, capacity, capital, collateral, and conditions. So we all know that while lending the funds, we would see the character of a person, character of a business, the management expertise. We would see the capacity, whether that customer, whether that borrower will be able to repay the funds back. That is something that needs to be, seen. The important is capital. So again, what funds that he has invested in the business. We generally say this as a keen of promoter involved in this business. And then collateral and conditions are something that we stipulate while sanctioning these loans. But the important thing beyond all this is the 6th C that we apply. That's a common sense. So while we are in the business of lending, any banks or financial institutions, all we know is the same thing about the theory and all financial ratios and all. But the important aspect that needs to be kept in mind is the common sense that prevails over every other thing. And in terms of analysis that bankers do while assessing a loan proposal, so it can be a business analysis wherein we assess the vintage of a customer, we understand the unique selling proposition of the business. What value proposition that business is, really meant for. That is something, is analyzed. The management is analysis is done. How is the management? What is the competence of management? How many years they are into this business. That is something. The integrity of the management. These all are, some of the aspects that bankers looks at while, sanctioning or rejecting a proposal. Then the industry part, that is, again, a very important, the business that we are really funding, where exactly it is located in terms of industry, the global parameters, the domestic parameters, then positioning of that entity in that entire scheme of things is something that is again an important. And the last one that I would say, the financial analysis. I'm sure the students must be, learning all types of financial ratios, whether it be profitability, leverage, liquidity ratios, repayment ability. These all sorts of, analysis that a banker do. But arriving at the final conclusion of sanctioning or rejecting, the common sense really prevails along with all these details that I've just, told you.
Means what you're trying to say is, despite doing all such analysis, if the common sense is saying that the loan must not be granted, so banker will apply that too.
Obviously. So we are living in the country wherein, in spite of other stuffs that we see, the things may be a little different. So that's where the common sense really prevails.
Yes, sometimes it may so happen what appears must not be reality.
True.
So, sir, as you know that students in CA final must be studying about finance, must be studying about risk management. So, can you throw some light on financial analysis part?
Okay. So, I can say a lot on financial analysis part, but, I would cover a little less because, I'm sure the students must be studying this part in their, theories in risk management and financial analysis management. So I would say the important is not to, know the ratio or their formulae. The important aspect is to understand the inferences of various formulas that we really understand, see. So for an example, there, we have profitability ratios, leverage, liquidity ratios. To just quote one profitability ratio, often we talk about the earnings before interest, depreciation and taxes, which we say EBITDA, right? Profit before interest, depreciation and taxes. So this ratio is very important and we keep on hearing about this ratio, but we really don't understand why is it so important. If you go to share market, if you want to compare the companies, you compare the profitability of the companies at this level, EBITDA. Why not at PAT? Why not at GP? Why not at NP? So the answer, remains in the inference. And while we say EBITDA, earnings before interest, depreciation, and taxes. So these can be different for different entities. For example, if we talk about interest, so there are two companies and one capital structure is different from another capital structure. One company would have borrowed more funds and another company would have borrowed less. And that's where if I see the earnings after interest, I would not be able to compare those two companies. So earnings before interest would make sense to compare those two companies. Again, if I talk about tax, somebody had started the plant or a unit at sales, where they might be getting some of the benefits that are there. But another company who is into same field, but they have not received those kind of benefits. So that's a taxes part. So both the companies, even though in the same business, are paying different taxes.
Different taxes.
The same can be for depreciation. So some company would have applied the different technology. They would have imported the machines from different country, and the depreciation can be different. So if I see the earnings, if I want to compare these two companies at profitability level, I can see the EBITDA to benchmark these two entities before interest, depreciation and taxes. So that's where the inference is very important. Often we use this EBITDA in our, syllabus, but we really don't understand why is it so important. To give you another perspective, we talk about leverage ratios and liquidity ratios, right?
Yes.
So this all comes from balance sheet, right? So if we just understand the balance sheet in a plain manner, like just a glance of a balance sheet, we need not this, we really don't want this analysis or a ratios to be really, calculated. So just to give an example, if I see a balance sheet, so there are two sides, right? One is source of funds and another is application of funds.
Application of funds.
Yeah. So while I see the source, I know that if it is a 100 rupees balance sheet, 10 rupees is something that promoter has brought in form of their equity, and there is an accumulated profits that are there in that 10.
Yes.
While I want to see the leverage. I would see out of this 10 or 100 rupees that I've said, 10 rupees is brought by the promoters. So leverage is 9:1. Now let's understand that against the 9:1 ratio that I'm saying, 9 is something that promoter has brought from outside and 1 is something that they have brought from their own pockets.
Yes.
So now I need to understand this leverage can be understood or a debt equity can be understood just on the face of a balance sheet. And while I know leverage, I need to know what is the scheme that promoter has invested in that business, right? So this was on a leverage part. Again, if we see the asset side we see the applications. So if we see fixed assets, the long-term assets that are been applied, promoter would have tied up this long-term assets from long-term sources, right? And this long-term assets would give the returns in a longer term. So if I buy a machinery, that machinery would fetch me the revenue in next 10 years, so that I can repay 10 years, 10 rupees every year, and then I can earn out of that investment. So application, long-term application and short-term application. I have seen students while they calculate this current ratio and the liquidity position of a borrower, but I don't really understand that the clarity that what exactly this current ratio means needs to be there. So if I continue this example of a balance sheet, wherein if I see that short-term application, for an example, is a 200 rupees. And if I have sourced this 200 rupees in the form of short-term obligation of 200, so the current ratio would be.
So sir, as you are aware, like CA finalists, those who are preparing for CA final might be studying about financial statements and might be studying about risk management. So I would like you to throw some lights on financial analysis part.
Okay. So I think the financial analysis, again, a very wide sea that we, really can't cover in this session at least. But I would just give you some, highlights or some things that I want to share with students specifically. So we study a lot of ratios and a lot of formulas to those ratios. But I think more than formula and more than the, the ratio, it is important that what inference that ratio really gives you. We study, profitability ratios, leverage ratios, liquidity ratios, but we also should understand with that what that ratio really inference out of, what should we get it. So just to give you example, we study, in profitability ratio, EBITDA, which we say earnings before interest, depreciation and taxes, right? So often we see this ratio being very important. If we are into share market, we see that we compare the companies at EBITDA level. So why is that so? Why not at GP level or why not at NP level? So earnings before interest, depreciation, taxes. So there are three elements that are there. This earning is before interest, depreciation and taxes. Yes. So if we want to compare two entities, two companies doing the same business, we can compare it at EBITDA level. So we are not considering the interest, right? So capital structure of the companies can be different. One company would have borrowed high, the another company would have borrowed less. And in that way, the interest cost would be different. So at this level, I would not be excluding the interest, so I can compare the companies. The another part is the depreciation. So the fixed asset cost would be different, the technologies would be different. So depreciation would be different. Example for, one company would have, went into the accelerated depreciation and another company would be on the, different parameter. The depreciation would be different. And so comparing those two entities at EBITDA is again a comparable point. Taxes, again, we know that, if some companies at says there would be, allowed the, incentives from government to, have relaxation on some taxes. Another would be different from that. So in that, overall interest, depreciation and taxes, because we are not excluding, this EBITDA is also considered as the industry profitability ratio, and where we can compare this to, entities, and that's where that ratio is important. So to quote more examples, I think we learn the leverage ratios, the liquidity ratios, but
Yes.
I think if we see and if we understand the balance sheet in a better manner, I think we need not these ratios to be really there. So to put the things in context, if we see a balance sheet, we see the source of funds, that is, liability part, and we see the application of funds, that's the asset part. So if I say a leverage ratio or a debt equity, I see debt equity is 2:1. That means the promoter has taken 2 rupees of debt against 1 rupee of his own. And that's where I, understand this is the debt against which this is the equity. If I just see the balance sheet liability side, and if I see the total of liability side is 100 rupees for an example, and if the promoter stake, capital and all the accumulated profits that they've done over the years is, for an example, 10 rupees. So this 10 on 100 rupees balance sheet means that promoter has 1 rupee in the business, or a 10 rupees, in the business against the 100 rupees of balance sheet size. So the leverage would be 9:1.
9:1.
So now you understand that promoter has actually a stake of 1 against the 9, which is from outside, whether it be bankers' money, whether it would be, creditors' money, or some unpaid, expenses. But need to understand that what this leverage really means,
Yes.
And similarly, if we see the asset side, so I often see, the students really not understanding what this current ratio means. What does really liquidity means? We all know the, ratio, that is current asset by current liability,
Current liabilities.
is current ratio. And 1.33 is the ideal ratio. I often get this, answer, but then we really don't know why is it, ideal. So because Tandon committee has told that you should bring the 25% of the, current assets from the promoter's contribution, that's where we just accepted that 1.33 is the ideal ratio. But we need to understand. So if we see the balance sheet, there is a short term, the asset side, if we see, there is a long term application, which is fixed asset and all long term application, and there's a short term application. So for an example, your stock, your receivables. For example, this stock and receivable are 200. Your total short term application is 200. And you have sourced this 200 on the liability side through, for an example, short term funds only. What will happen? Against this 200, you have sourced 200 from a short term. Your current ratio is 1. But in that event where you are delaying your receivables, you are not able to get your receivables on time, but your obligations are fixed. You have to pay your short term, payments that you have to do. And that's where company faces that, liquidity trap. And that's where we say, if 200 rupees cut 25% should come from the long-term source. Any event, your short-term application is delayed, you can survive by the 25% coming from long-term. So the theories that we really, study, we should really understand what does this theory really mean, and why is current ratio 1.33 being defined as an ideal ratio.
Thank you so much, sir. It's such a great insight into the balance sheet and into the EBITDA point. Even I was never aware of such things. So that's so great to listen from you.
Thanks.
So being an Avkara, it's really proud for us. But I would like you to advise our students or some tips that you would like to share to our students.
Okay, sure. So I would give two piece of advice, not more, because the generation is very fast, and I would say the conceptual clarity is very much important. And I often give this example of Mr. Newton, who found the gravitational force for us, and he was sitting down the tree and he saw the apple falling.
Yes.
So any common man like you and me or anybody else would think it has to fall down, right? Why should it go up? But then he thought, why should it get down? Why should it not go up? And that's where I want a fundamental clarity of whatever things we are, really understanding or really studying is very, very important. After we complete our CA, specifically to students, after we complete our CA, the fundamentals, the conceptual clarities are something that is going to help you a lot. So this piece of advice, whatever you do, if apple is falling down, just ask yourself, why is it falling down? It has to be that way. That's not the correct approach. Why is the correct approach? And the second piece of advice, this new generation and startups and creativity and innovation, I hear a lot of energy from the students. So I just would like to share one example. So often we have heard people saying about creativity and innovation, right?
Yes.
But the fundamental, remains the same here, that creativity and innovation only will come if there is a necessity in place, if there is a need in place. And against this need, to address these needs, we have to create value, whether it be in the form of creativity or whether it be in the form of innovation. So I believe whatever we do, whatever need that we are really seeing, we should address that with the creation of value. Just to give you one example, I'm sure we all would be using this post-it that we stick on our desk as a reminder. Yeah. So I would just say this post-it was invented by Dr. Arthur Fry, Art Fry, in 1970 or 74, I would say. And actual inventor of this was not Mr. Art Fry. The story goes back to 1968, wherein there was one person, Dr. Silver Spencer at 3M Tech. And this guy was in a process of developing a strong adhesive. I'm sure the students might be knowing this, but I want to say this, that he was in a process of developing a strong adhesive.
Yeah.
But in the process, he could not make the adhesive strong, but that adhesive was a reusable adhesive, a low substance adhesive. He marketed this product for 5 years. But why would anybody, buy the adhesive which is not strong? We want a gum or of adhesive should be very strong. Why would a reusable gum would be used? His friend who was working at the same organization, found a merit in that creation. And they thought to create bookmarks out of this adhesive. They distributed these bookmarks to people in the company. And in fact, they found that people were sticking these things on their books, on their shelves, on their desks as a reminders. And that's where the creation came. And then in that year, they released the post-it till I think 1990. They patented this product. And I think they were selling this product in more than 100 countries, till 1990. So I think the creation and innovation lies in the creation of value. That is very important. In whatever segment we are, whatever we are doing, whatever company, whatever organization we are working for, or as an individual, I think we should think of creation of value in whatever, really we do. So these are two, piece of advice that I would give to the students of Navkar.
Really great advices, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It was so great to have a talk show with you. We have done so many things from you, including myself. Students will definitely be benefited from this. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much. I would like to, really express my thanks to Navkar Institute. It's a proud feeling that, I am a Navkarite, and I would like to thank the team Navkar for this kind of initiatives to benefit the students. Special thanks to Hitesh sir as well as Dhaval sir to give this opportunity. And I hope this will benefit the students in a big way and a big manner.
Definitely, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
If you like this video, share it with your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch more such videos and learn from our expert faculty members. Press the bell icon to get regular notifications whenever we upload a new video. Download NDI mobile app to get complete CA course online. We value your support. Thank you for watching.